I'm really excited about today's guest for a number of reasons because, as a young man, I was very very influenced by his music. It really informed a lot of the tastes I have today. And yeah, I mean, he's been one of the most influential musicians and producers for a lot of people too. And his career spans decades. He's responsible for so many hip hop classics, from De La to Gravediggaz to Handsome Boy Modeling School. His career is pretty unparalleled by a lot of people. So I'd like you all to welcome Prince Paul, aka Chess Rockwell, aka The Undertaker, to the show. Where are you at currently? Are you at home?
Yeah, well, this is my basement, and I am. Well, Batman never reveals the address of the Batcave, now does he?
Absolutely.
When you can give me that, then I'll tell you exactly where I'm
at. Yeah, no, you don't need to blow up the spot for sure. But hey, man, I was talking to OP. OP mentioned that you were maybe out of town, and you're working on something. Are you able to? I mean, again, I don't want to blow up your spot, but are you able to talk about what you're working on at the moment?
Well, I think if I'm not on social media that much, but if people do see me on social media, they'll probably see me with De La Soul, and I'll leave it at that. It's a nice being reunited, and it feels so good. Now it's nice to be reunited, and we're working on some things. But the primary thing, and I know everybody's concerned, is we're just getting things ready for streaming. So, but there's always a host of things that can happen, or possibly will happen. I like to just be a mystery. We'll leave it at that.
That's fair enough, man. I mean, geez, you're right. There's so many things that can happen and may happen or will happen. It's the music industry.
Yeah, man. And what's crazy? A lot of things with the music industry, things that's supposed to happen, never happen. And that's I always tell everybody is like, look, out of every 10 things that's supposed to happen, I'm supposed to do about 1.5 materializes, and that's been my whole entire life. It's, I don't expect, you'll never see me online going, yo, I'm about to work with such and such. I got this movie I'm doing. Da, 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 da. Never, because people will be disappointed and they'll go, well, what happened to that? And so I just try to say as little as possible. So,
Yeah, man. I think that's a really interesting perspective because even like on your when I was doing some research, checking out your Wikipedia, obviously I knew a lot of stuff, but the kind of details behind some of my favorite albums of yours, are fascinating. The story about you've had deals with Russell Simmons and Def Jam, and then things haven't materialized, and you've done things with Eazy-E and Ruthless Records, and like, man, so there's some real interesting stories just with certain records coming out or not coming out or just getting them released, right?
Yeah, that's my whole life. I told someone recently, I'm 6 degrees separated from everyone. Even the people you least expect. Somehow I'm 6 degrees separated from something or some situation, and not all of it is good and not all of it's bad. I'm telling you, anybody who wants, I don't know who's in the music industry who's watching, wants to be in the music industry. And I say this again, this is a rule of thumb. Out of every 10 things, every 1.5 thing materializes. If you live with that, you will not be disappointed. If you get 2 things, then you'll be happy because you surpass with the averages for succeeding.
Absolutely, but needless to say, man, you've had more than 1 or 2 things happen in your life and go really, really well. But managing the expectations for you, how have you managed that? Like, I mean, I'm thinking of like so many crazy things that you've done, and obviously there's probably many others that haven't happened. But how have you kind of managed that on a personal level?
I think for me, it's knowing that I don't know. I just never. It's funny. Somebody asked me this recently too. It's like I never took music as serious as most people. I took it as a labor of love, but I never took it as, I'm trying to blow up and here's my button glossy and I'm going around and I'm trying to make this hit record. I did whatever was fun, and whatever came out of that, I accepted, And so my approach was different because usually if you're really trying to succeed, you'll think commercially because now you're just trying to do whatever it takes to be seen to get things happening. Me, people went left, I went right. And some weird reason, I don't know, in the universe, it just worked out. I was not supposed to succeed or be making records still at the age of 55. That was not supposed to happen because I've just done everything to go anti-pop. You know what I'm saying? Anti-commercial. So, I'm thankful. So I'm every day I'm just very thankful. It's a surprise to me. So that's how I manage my expectations.
Man, I love that though, because first of all, you've had like a really cohesive sound throughout your career. As a fan of yours, I've listened to a lot of all your projects, that I'm aware of. Even going through this, preparing for this interview, I was going through a bunch of your stuff, and yeah, it's so cohesive. In fact, one of the mixtapes that I discovered of yours was a promo that you did for Psychoanalysis.
Wow!
Confessions of a Beat Junkie. Shout out to my friend Ella Brown who loaned that to me. This stayed in my Walkman for many months. And
Walkman, Jesus, okay, yeah. Now we're going throwback.
Absolutely, man. Hey, I'm not young myself, so it was crazy though. Just like at that age, like listening to a lot of your music and realizing how far back you went. If we're gonna go all the way back, Stetsasonic. You're a young man at that point, right? Like how old were you when you joined Stetsasonic?
When I joined Stet, I was either 16 or 17, probably 17. I was still in high school. I think I was in the 11th grade or exiting the 11th grade, going into the 12th. So I was probably like 16, 17, yeah, somewhere around there. And yeah, it was a long time ago. Wow.
I just like to put this in kind of perspective for myself as well, because I was talking to Kenny Dope and Jazzy Jeff about hip-hop at that point in time, and they all talked about how the concept of hip-hop there was no hip-hop music. They were making music that was called hip-hop based off of other influences. So like a hip-hop career, was that even an idea at that point when you joined Stetsasonic, or what was the goal?
No, not at all. I mean, when I joined Stet, I didn't even know what was going on. All I remember is it's like, yo, you're dope DJ, or maybe the slang was fresh at the time. You're a fresh DJ. We want you down with our group. We're gonna eventually, we're doing all these shows. We're gonna make demos. I had no idea what a demo was. Records to me was Run DMC, Fat Boys, LL Cool J. That was Houdini. That was far out of the realm of where I was. I was just happy to DJ. And back then, I honestly thought no one could beat me. I thought I was that good. I was like, it was all about scratching and tricks and, all the other things. And that was my main concern. Like, I kept my focus was very narrow, and it was just DJing. And Stetsasonic took me along for the ride in making records. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have really thought of making records. Like, it was a part of being part of that group.
Now, since Stetsasonic was a band, when it came to making records, were you guys, how was that integrated with like sampling and stuff? Was there any of that, or was it drum machines? And how did that kind of production for Stetsasonic go?
Well, we were in the early stages of sampling. So, we combined a little bit of both. We had live drummer, we had a keyboard player, which is DBC. I was DJing. We had a human beatbox, a human mix machine, which is Wise, which all this sounds very similar to the Roots. So we were pre-Roots with a similar formula. We didn't have a live guitar or anything like that. But, and yeah, it was just in the very early stages of sampling. It was just really just flying in samples here and there over the drum machine, over the keyboard stuff. But it wasn't as heavily implicated as later on, until I started really honing in on my production craft, until I got to De La Soul. That's when the sampling thing it all clicked. And I was like, okay, and I was figuring out the technology.
Was that technology a lot due to the fact of the limited sampling time? When you talk about like those early samplers, like the SP12, they had 10 seconds or something.
Oh wow, yeah, I think that's pretty gracious. I don't even remember. I remember as soon as you press something, it was tick, and you're like, oh, that's it. There was no. If you wanted to loop, you had to speed everything up to 45 and then play in the slowest key, and then the quality is always like so it was trying to sample by any means necessary and with any equipment that was available. I think the early sampler I remember my friend Newkirk had that we used was a professional sampler was an Akai 612. And if I believe it's called 612, it had a big giant floppy disk. I'm trying to center myself in camera. That was like this big, the crazy joints.
Yeah. Actually floppy.
Yeah. It had the real giant floppy disk before they got down to the smaller ones. And I used a Digitech pedal, like a sampling pedal. I had that, and I had a rack mount one too. And everybody remembers the SK1. Casio.
Oh yeah, that was my first sampler.
Oh man, see, old school. And then the SK5 if you got a little more advanced. So yeah, I mean, anything that had that technology, and we could afford it, we would get it.
Actually, this begs a question. The SK1, the Casio, the keyboard. I love that thing so much, like with all my heart. That was like the world's introduction to sampling. On the De La record, I feel like you guys used the lion roar sound a couple times on that record.
That was SK5. Oh, yeah. And if I remember correctly, I think Dave pressed the button on that. It was at the end of the record. yeah. That was. We were just wilding out. It was fun times. But yeah. We used everything.
Yo, I love that. When I heard that, I was like instantly like kind of all the things about music, when you have that kind of memory, just like this feeling of like the discovery of finding that button on the SK on the Casio keyboard and just loving it and just pressing it over and over again. It was magic.
It's back in those days, anything you made that was sampling was great to you. And then you listen back, you go, oh God, that was horrible. But you're just so into the tech. Oh my God, this is my voice. Hello. And you go, oh, and you're so more into the technology and that it actually works than what you are actually doing creatively.
Yeah, man. It's so magic, though. Like, I mean, even I've seen those YouTube videos like Herbie Hancock showing kids the Fairlight back in the day, and they're just like mind blowing.
That's throwback, man. And if you had real money in a crazy studio, you had one of those synclaviers, or I guess some people call them synclaviers, but synclavier, that was like, I forgot how much that thing cost, like $500,000 or something, 200,000, 100,000. That was something crazy. And that was some of the highest sampling rate you could get at that time. And yeah, those were cool.
All right, so I got to keep it on this early De La record, 3 Feet High and Rising, just for a second. I know you probably get asked these stuff about this all the time, but forgive me, I got to have my moment.
No, it's cool.
But I read like the budget for that record was like $20,000 or something. It was like very, very little. So where did you record that record, and like with that budget, like how did you make that record?
What's crazy is listen to it now, that's like no money, and even then it was no money. But when you made $1,000 a year, $20,000, you can make do. You can make anything happen, and our expectations were little, and we went to a studio called Calliope in Manhattan on 37th Street between, I think it was 8th and 7th and 8th Avenue. And we would get time, that sweet spot time that was cheaper. During the day it was like maybe $45, $55 an hour, but we get like, midnight to 8, for $30 an hour, and try to get the cheap reels of tape. Kids don't understand, like, recording on tape was expensive. Like each reel was like $1.50, $1.25, depending on, the Ampex reels. And yeah, we knew what we was doing. Like, my concept for the group and what I would tell them is we would do as much pre-production before we went in as possible, so we would know what we're doing, to have the basics. And then once we got the basics down, everything else was just experimental. Would find stuff, add things in. But it's knowing what you're doing, because you want to be efficient, because you don't have that much money or that much time. But yeah, it's funny when people talk about that budget. It seems like it gets smaller and smaller every conversation I get. It's like, yo, I heard you have $5,000. I honestly don't remember. I just remember it was little, looking back, but I think it sometimes, like, things like that works better. I think when you're limited to what you have, you get the most out of it. That's even with equipment. I realize the more equipment I have, the more I'm like, but when I had that one piece of equipment, I learned how to freak that thing from top to bottom and got really good at it and developed the sound. And that's what, even with a budget, like if you're sitting there usually with a lot of these big budgets, you'll see guys, they'll do like Puffy and just, popping bottles, talking, the girls in the back, you're just wasting time you're renting stuff you don't need. You know what I'm saying? Your record's not coming out till 12 months. 14 months. So
Yeah, man.
when you got limited resources, you will find a way to make it happen.
I was thinking that too just the other day. I was like, man, when I was younger, like there was still the same amount of hours in a day. There was still 24 hours in a day, but I had a day job and I did all these other things. But I always carved out this time to make beats or whatever, and it was like, man, I made a lot of beats in that time between I finished work and I had to go to sleep and then I got to go to work again. And I'm like, do I need to have a lot of people I think struggle with that. Like, do I need to have a day job and be a musician, or do I need to be a full-time creative musician all the time? I know this comes up a lot, but it's like, sometimes it's like, actually, no, I need to do things like, I need to have a day job so that I do make beats, so it's like really enjoyable when I come home or something, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
No, I totally agree. And and probably when you were making those beats in those early days, you didn't have a smartphone, you didn't have 2,000 channels on your TV, your focus was very minimal. It was limited to just certain things, nobody's calling you randomly on your phone and you're like this, and you're answering, and then you're surfing the internet, and next thing you look up and you're like, wow, that was 3 hours on the web. So yeah, time was very useful back then, same thing. I was looking through some beats I made. Like I have some stuff I made on a 4-track and stuff I made on 8-track. And I'm looking, and I dated every one of those tapes with all of the songs, and there would be like 10 songs in a day, another 10 songs, like I was just flipping them. Now, mind you, they weren't all great, but I was really into it and focused and just cranking out stuff, I wish I could do that now. Oh my God, I miss those days.
I love hearing that though. Like, I love hearing that from you, specifically. Like, I made all these beats, but not all of them were good. I love that honesty, because I think a lot of us will have put a lot of pressure on ourselves to make a hit or like a banger every time we open up fire up the sampler, or open up the DAW, And the reality is that's not real, right? For anyone, right?
No, I mean, I think when you first start, like I said, you usually just amazed that you got things working, and anything that you make, you're just like, oh my God, that's so freaking cool, and but it's not all that great, so you just keep making stuff. But then when your expectations and others' expectations of you increase, then you start to focus on, okay, nah, that's not good, it's not going in the right place. And where before I would have just trudged through it, listen to that, I'll put the snare on the end, it's whack, you know what I'm saying? Listen back to it like a few years later, but I was just happy making music. So yeah, with that expectations of wanting to be great and hearing what's out and comparing yourself to your old self, and whoever's hot, you're, at least for me, it decreases. But I stopped doing that. I went back to just like, I can make whack music and it's okay, and I'm more productive and I'm more creative that way.
That's really reassuring, man. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I do feel that a lot of us do that, all those things that you just mentioned, compare ourselves, listen to other things, say, oh, why is my shit not as good like that? Oh, should I do this? And then, it's the death of creativity right there, right?
Yeah, it's usually you are your own worst enemy, and that's what happens, and that's what happens to usually most artists. Second, third record, sometimes the second record's fine. Third record gets a little questionable because you're just so focused on like the hit and everybody else and expectations, and you stop experimenting, and you just. And everybody's like, oh, your first album was so much better, and this and that, and da-da-da. And it's crazy. It's you are your own worst enemy.
I love that you're talking about that, too. We're talking about specifically, like, trying to make hits, trying to make a number one song. And I watched the interview you did with Tracklib talking about how Me, Myself, and I was actually quite calculated, right? When you made that song for 3 Feet High Rising, you guys were calculating, like, we need a radio song. And you did that, and it actually worked.
Yeah, I mean, it was pressured by the label because the album was done. We need a radio song. Me and Mace was really going over using Knee Deep, and we put it together because out of everything we done in the record, aside from Say No Go is a popular sample, but we're like, oh man, you can't get more popular than this. Everybody knows this song, and it's a jam, and we loved it, and we're big Parliament Funkadelic fans. At least me and Maceo was, or is, I should say. And we just we stumbled on that. Like, if you ask me to make a pop song now, I'm lost. Because there's things that I think that are great that people go, eh. And then there's things I think that, nah, that's whack. And oh my God, that's the hit. Oh. So I don't know what is good anymore. But then we had an idea what might work, and we stumbled on it. Like, that wasn't guaranteed.
I love that, though, especially about your production. I like that you're never afraid of using something familiar, but also on the flip side of that, you dig up crazy obscure things, you sample all sorts of crazy stuff, and things I'm still trying to find to this day. Like, I still got stuff on my wish list, and it's so cool. Like, I have a quote from Biz Marquis, R.I.P. One said of your production style, Prince Paul's contribution to hip hop is that you could use records that weren't James Brown or just break beats, and yeah, like you've introduced us all to so many interesting sounds. What is that? Is that coming from the DJ background for you, or is that just a reflection of your tastes in general of music?
I think it's definitely coming from the DJ background, because my influences back as a DJ was record selection, and to me, who had the best record selection that I've ever heard is Africa Bambaataa. He played everything and anything. You could listen to old tapes now. There's songs on there that they'll play, yeah, Africa Bambaataa, sure, shot. And I'm like, what is that? I'm like, yo, what is that? There's things that I have no clue what they are. But the fact that he would dig deep and dig weird, with a whole bunch of songs, that made me go, okay, it doesn't matter who makes it or the genre. It just matters that it's dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, people try to, put, it has to be this, has to be that. It's music is subjective. It's like, if it's dope, it's dope. I like the Batman theme. Say I own it by the Ventures. I got their version. I play it every once in a while. Not in a long time, but it's corny to most, but it's dope to me. You know what I'm saying? So, it's not James Brown, so it works.
Batman theme's a jam. Especially, you're talking about the Adam West one, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a joint for sure. That's really cool. Hey, I just want to take a quick moment and say thanks to DJ Lowkey for the big raid, the Good Music Twitch family in the house. And they rolled in and they said, Jay-Z told me for the dope beat that you seek, the Prince Paul. Is that a quote, I assume?
What? Wait, hold on. What's that again?
Jay-Z told me that for the dope beat, you seek the Prince Paul.
I don't know about all of that, but if that's somewhere, I'd like to use it and tell everybody.
Right? Yeah, Lowkey, jump in the chat. Let me know where that comes from. We got to get a poll on that. But yeah, man. Early Jay-Z lyric. Hey, Jairus, thank you for that. Big Jazz and Jay-Z. It's that simple. Okay.
Yeah, I worked with a very young Jay-Z. I remember when Jazz brought him in. He's like, "Yeah, this is my boy Jay-Z," and I'm like, "Cool." You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's like, "Oh, you work with Jay-Z," but he wasn't Jay-Z of today. He was young Jay-Z, Jazz's friend. You know what I'm saying? And dope, but the star was still Jazz. You know what I'm saying? Like, Jazz was just nice, and you could tell his influence on Jay-Z. And you could see their relationship back then. And that's when I met him and I worked with him. Yeah, very, very early on. Like I said, it was that's when, who's that? Oh, that's Jazz's friend. You know what I'm saying? he was that guy,
Yeah. Hey, so yeah, back to the production stuff though. The one thing I always enjoyed about your production is the way you layered a lot of sounds from different genres and made them work together. And we were just talking about that. But I guess on that, do you have like a music background? Like your ear was always able to kind of match the key of things, and this is obviously before technology would tell you to do that. Like how did you kind of work with those parameters? Obviously, with the technology at the time, there was no key detection. Did you just trust your ear on that, or how did it come together?
Yeah, everything is your ear. For me, musical background, I've collected records since I was 5. And my dad was a super duper jazz collector, and it's just listening to music and having siblings that are 10, 12, 16 years older than you. So as a kid, I'm listening to like everything and anything, and everything's diverse. And even before toys, it was just listening, you know, sitting with my dad in the living room playing Thelonious Monk or whatever, and Coltrane, and not understanding it and probably really hating it at that time, but still defining my ear. So by the time it got to production, you know, you start learning how to loop something, and then you put a horn or whatever on top of it, and you go, oh, that, in your head it worked, but when you laid it down, it's not what you heard, and then you realize that's off. It's like somebody singing out of key. And so, you know, you get a good engineer, and you go, this is wrong. How do we fix this? Oh, you make something called a pitch shifter. Oh, and then you dial it in, and you go, oh, and oh, that's the right, that sounds right. Nothing, and oh, that's a G sharp, and it's like you keep pressing the button until it's right. You go, that's it, you know, and that's what it is. And I've relied on that. Now, have I learned a little bit of music theory? Yes, I have, but I try not to apply it, because when I do, it sets rules and boundaries for me. It helps in some ways, you know, when you're trying to make chord progressions, a certain thing, you go, okay, this goes from here to here. But once you start going, and you're thinking about everything that it does, and you get limited. I break rules by being stupid. You know, I go, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. You know, hey, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. And you just stumble on to stuff, and you go, wow, that's amazing. And then a true musician comes in, and it's like, you can't put it F sharp with a da-da-da-da, and you can't.
I love it.
For me.
Yeah, man. Dude, that's really, really on point, because, yeah, sometimes as someone who plays music, I play keyboards and stuff. When I'm not doing samples, you know, I'm trying to put things, and I'm like, this doesn't have, like, the feeling that I wanted to get out of it, and it just sounds really dry. It's just like, oh, this is just a major chord or something, or a minor chord, and it just sounds so lifeless. But when it's sampled, or when I'm doing things, like you said, that are outside of those rules and conventions, then it sounds much, much more alive, much more, you know, giving. And sometimes I don't know how to explain that stuff, but I love that you're not afraid. You just go in, trust your ear. If it sounds good, it works, let's go.
Yeah, and I'll state this, as I stated earlier, you are your own worst enemy. And I've found that throughout the course of my life, and I didn't know this from the beginning, but as you progress and you analyze how you thought and what you did and what you're doing and your depression and everything else, you go, music takes you through every type of emotion you'll ever have. Love, hate, you know, whatever, stress, this, that. And then once you start to analyze those things, you start to realize, like, nobody pressured me more than me. You know, even when I had friends come, oh, that's whack. But when I was young, I didn't listen to them. But then when I got older, I was like, it's whack. And then I was like, but I never listened to begin with. So now why am I all sensitive now? And then it's analyzing, it's knowing yourself. You could really get to know yourself through your music. It's like it's the best therapist you could have. If you stick with it and you're true to it, you will save yourself thousands of dollars instead of sitting on the couch. You could just listen to your songs, listen to people's reactions, listen to analyze why you did things, what happened as the result, and you'll come out with, like, oh, okay, it's, you know, I had a rough childhood, you know, I didn't eat on time. You start to learn little things, some Freudian things about yourself, you know.
Wow. Yeah, that's so, very, very true, man. It's crazy. It's interesting hearing, like, you talk about how you have a lot of, when you're younger, you have a lot of confidence, and you know what you want almost a lot of direction, and people can't tell you if it's whack. But as you get older and you're doing more collaboration, you start listening to those people. And obviously your relationship with De La at an early age was a very supportive. It sounds like you guys were all very supportive of each other, right? Like going into making that record.
Yeah, I mean, the important thing for me with that record was based upon my experience with Stetsasonic. Stetsasonic, to me, was Daddy-O's group. And though I did participate and did some production here and there, my hand was limited. So when I got to De La Soul, I didn't want to have the same rules that I had of Stetsasonic. You know, for example, and I remember this, and, you know, Daddy-O might not remember, but I remember because it hurt my feelings. I'd go, I'm pushing mute on the board in the studio. I'm like pressing the button and putting it. He slapped my hand off, and I'm like, "What's that?" You know, saying I'm in a groove. You know, the reels are going, and you're mixing everything by hand. It's no like computerized kids out there now. You know, I'll just delete this bar. Everything is on the fly. He'd slap my hand away, and I was like, you know what? If whoever I work with, I will not do that. I will allow everybody's input and I will value it. And you know when it's whack is after we record it and listen to it. I won't shoot it down before it's done. And a lot of people, and that goes even with like I said, with music theory and a lot of things, you'll shoot it down before it's done because it doesn't make sense. But you didn't do it and you didn't hear it. So you don't know until you know. And so that's what I went by with De La. Like, we didn't know until we knew. And you know, listening to a lot of the old reels recently, there was a lot of things that we just, you know, that kind of fell by the wayside that we just tried but didn't work. But we knew it didn't work. You know, so there was no guessing.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome to hear that. And it's really, thank you so much for sharing these stories. They're so awesome.
No, not a problem.
And so, like I said earlier, that fantastic mixtape that you made in 1998, Confessions of a Beat Junkie. If anyone who's watching right now wants to listen to that, I found the YouTube link and I put it in the Discord, so you can just type in ! Discord in the chat and you'll be able to check it out. It's going to be there forever, of course. Definitely have a listen. I mean, obviously you may know a lot of Prince Paul's work, but this is like a lot of his remixes, a lot of his all of the songs he produced with other artists. It's really one of my favorite mixes, and it's put together so well by DJ Prince Paul as a DJ, which is also super dope.
People don't know I'm a DJ first and foremost.
Right? But I'd love to just hear a little bit more about some of, you know, the favorite artists that you have worked with over the years.
Man, I worked with a lot of people. I don't even know if there are favorites per se. I mean, people obviously know, you know, the Big Daddy Kane's and Queen Latifah's and Slick Rick. Slick Rick and KRS-One to me, I think, were probably the most intriguing because of their strong personalities in different ways. Like KRS-One, confidence comes in, books and books of rhymes. Let's see if this rhyme fits on here. I got another rhyme. I got, turn the headphones louder. We blew the headphone out one time. Like, he just comes in like, I am the nicest in the world. Slick Rick, on a subtle way, will go, I am the nicest in the world, but just real relaxed. I remember he kicked out his book, sat on a stool, and rhymed. Like, it was like he was like a Las Vegas singer or something, like an old gentleman. You know what I'm saying? He was nice and flawless. I'm like, yo, that's amazing. You know, obviously there's De La, there's working with Chris Rock with the comedians. That's a whole lot of fun. Vernon Reid, Bernie Worrell, which I learned a lot from. You know, it's a lot of times I would take projects. Some people, you know, look at money as first and foremost. Back in the days, I used to take things because to me it was like free college. I get paid for it, but there's so much I can learn from this person. Like Bernie Worrell, for example. You know, man, I'm such a big fan of Parliament Funkadelic. This is the guy. He arranged everything, worked with the Talking Heads. He's that dude. I would pay him to work with him. But for me to be in that position, I'm like, yo, they could have paid me next to nothing. It's like that type of knowledge is priceless. And so there are tons of people I work with, old and young. Because it doesn't have to be somebody who's just experienced. There's a lot of kids. Like my son, for example, he's it's funny, he's not a kid, he's 30 now, right? But you know,
DJ
he
P
DJs
for real, right?
Yeah, P for real. He DJs for Little Uzi, and so, you know, the stuff that he brings to the table and what he listens to and how he hears music and, you know, the stuff that, you know, his friends make and people that, and it's like, wow. It's like, wow, I didn't know that. Oh, wow, okay, I hear this. Okay, this is designed for this. So there's always something to learn, you know, and as long as you stay open-minded, I think you'll continue to be creative.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I really just want to just give a quick shout out, DJ P for real. We follow him too, and
what?
Yeah, he's crazy. He's crazy, man. And he's DJing for Little Uzi Vert. Is he on tour right now?
I don't think he's on tour now, but he's doing a bunch of spot dates. I think they're going to go on tour probably at some point. Yeah, because I think, you know, everything coming up off the pandemic, you know, things are starting to really roll back and get together. So, but yeah, he's out there, man, and I didn't expect him to do this. I didn't know he was going to do it, and I'm happy for him. And you know, you know, little people, not too many people may not know this, but I was a single dad for many years, and I raised him as a little boy, and me taking him to the studio. But like this, when I remember I was making, I forgot, was it? It was probably De La Soul's Dead. I remember having the S950 and him like this in one arm, holding him as a baby and pressing buttons and trying to truncate and do all this other stuff. And, you know, so he's heard everything. He's been in the studio. I took him on the road with me, you know, so I guess it would make sense for him to be doing what he's doing, but I really, in my head, thought he would just have a nice regular job, you know, be a good boy, you know. This music stuff is dangerous. You know?
Hey, well,
he's done well.
Yeah, he's doing really well. And I mean, hey, my dad's a radio DJ, and I turned out a DJ, so same deal.
There it goes, man. See, it's in the blood.
It's the music thing, man. You can't shake it, especially. Yeah. Man, that's crazy. He was in the session for De La Soul's Dead. Did he get like a...
Oh man, I took him. No, it wasn't Dead. It was Balloon Mind State.
Wow.
But yeah, when they came by the house, I remember, and they probably might not remember, but I remember. It's like, hey, Paul, you know, you want to put your baby down? You want to do? It's like, no, he's okay, he's good. You know, so they had one arm, and yeah, man, that was my buddy, man. I took him everywhere. Same with my daughter. You know, it's she's not into it as much as we are, but what she hears and the music she likes, I've learned a lot from. Like it's amazing what you learn. Wow. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how I got into that subject.
No, it's cool. I was when I was like kind of researching again for this I came across it and I was like, yeah, that's right. P for real. He DJs for Lil Uzi Vert. And then I also found out that you guys made a mixtape together.
Yeah. We did one called like Father Like Son for Father's Day. Uh-huh. That was I think it was for Cornerstone. That was many years ago. Yeah. We did this project called Negroes on Ice years ago. We did a lot of things, man. His first DJ gig, like his major DJ gig, was opening up for the Genius at Brooklyn Bowl. Was it Brooklyn? Not Brooklyn Bowl. What was it? What's the other Brooklyn place? Not Brooklyn Bowl. They just closed it too. It was
not Webster Hall. No?
Huh?
No, Webster Hall, not Brooklyn, no.
No, it wasn't Webster Hall. Oh, I forgot the name of the place. They just closed it down. But yeah, that was his first gig. Wow. And I knew he was going to fail. I was like, you're not ready for this. And I'm like all on him. And you know what messed it up? Is he got on there and I was like, he was playing songs I would have never thought of playing. And
like
he
what?
killed it. And he killed it. And I was just like, you didn't pay your dues. This is not right. You just can't go. And so I was thinking he's going to be, he's not going to understand the reality of making music and, struggling. And he skipped a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? He didn't carry no crates. You know what I'm saying?
Straight to Serato, right?
Yeah, man. He wanted poo-poo.
But I mean, if he's in sessions doing Balloon Mind State, surely that's kind of seeped in. Obviously, having you as a dad as obviously an influence on him. Surely.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. Like he's seen it all. I think what's interesting for him, and not to blow him up too much, is that his ear is so different from a lot of his peers and his friends, and a lot of friends come over because he would go, yeah, man, the Chaotix record and and they'll have no idea what half the artists are. Black Moon, they don't know anything about that. You know what I'm saying? So he's just like, his ear is really advanced. Though when he DJs now, he plays everything that's trappy under the sun. But he knows all that other stuff. He plays that in his car. So it's funny. Just seeing the reaction of his friends, they're like, what's that? They're like,
oh, I love it.
Yeah.
But let's just talk about you as a DJ as well. Like just Shortcuts in the chat. So first of all, I want to give a big shout out to Shortcut, the OG legend. But he said DJ Prince Paul was in the New Music Seminar DJ Battle. I don't know what year that is.
Woo! I think it was like 86, 85, somewhere around there. Yeah. I actually made it to the semifinals. I had beat the world champion from the previous year. And I'm telling you, the only reason why I didn't get to the finals is because, and Oh man, this story would actually take the bulk of this whole thing, so I'm not going to get all into detail. Was because Newmark had sponsored the DJ set, and so the first day it was everybody had to spin on these Newmark turntables or something, and then after they realized the DJs couldn't spin on them that well, and they said everybody bring your own set, but 2 DJs bring your own set. So I was spinning on somebody else's set, and they were spinning on their own set.
Oh.
So they knew, they know the mixer, they know like everything. So I had this part where I was drop needling Rock in the Pocket. Bing, bing, but I couldn't get because it wasn't my needle. So there's a certain little groove you catch, and it was off, and I gave up. I gave up in the middle of the round, and at the end of the day, I was battling Cutmaster DC. At the end of the day, they said, I think I lost by a few points. I remember Africa Islam, one of the judges, was like, why did you give up? You know what I'm saying? He's like, if I would have just stuck with what I stuck with and wasn't just so frustrated, there was a good chance I could have made it. And I would have battled Jazzy Jeff and lost.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
I would have clearly lost. You know what I'm saying?
But still,
I got more stories about that, but I will leave that alone.
Oh man, I'd love to hear that one of these days. Maybe we'll do a part 2 at some point.
Oh Jesus,
be amazing. That's crazy though. Shout out Jazzy Jeff though, man. I mean, that's definitely the god.
Oh, he was phenomenal. He was doing stuff. I was like, oh my god, because you got to keep in mind, like back then, no one could beat me. I'm nice. I'm the best in the world. Like I'm going around, battling people, slaying them. You know what I'm saying? This is the only time you ever see me brag about anything. Because I was that nice in my head. Until I saw Jazzy Jeff.
Damn.
Everybody else was like, yeah, they were all right. You know what I'm saying? I beat the guy from last year. He was really good, but I beat him. Like, it's easy breezy. Jazzy Jeff made me really consider, like, I'm better as a producer than a DJ. Because in my head, I was like, if I can't be the best, and this is wrong to do, I know. If I can't be the best, I'm not playing. If I can't win the game, I'm not playing. And that's how I felt. After I saw that, I was like, that's too much work to put in.
Wow.
Production is where it's at. So in some weird way, he kind of made me focus more on production, because I couldn't be the best,
Much love, Jazzy Jeff, but also kind of thank you because we get this amazing principal production.
Yeah. I couldn't be the best. Ah!
That's amazing. Have you told Jeff that story before?
Maybe in not that detail, He knows, man. Let's leave these stories alone.
All right,
let's go to the next thing.
All right. Well, I guess just back to your son playing a lot of like modern artists. Like you said, he plays a lot of trap stuff. Are there any new rappers, singers, or artists that like you'd like to produce for, or you're just interested in?
There's not. To be honest, I don't listen to too many. Like I know little singles here and there and stuff that he plays. I'm not saying little like to belittle him, but I'm just saying in reference to like. But you know what I really like? Is a lot of the artists that come out of Chicago. It's that sound that they have, like, what's like, No Name, like that whole group. What's his name? Saba and all those other people out. Oh, their production and the sound to me is incredible. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, and there's so many producers out now, I can't name them. It's like actors and actresses. Like I'll watch shows and they go, oh, and I'm just making his name, Margaret Sawyer. She just won a da-da-da. I'm like, who's that? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm so far removed now. I thought I'd never be that way. I thought I'd always be him. Like, I'm always going to be cool, but time just passed me. So a lot of the new artists, I honestly say I don't know. A lot of times I don't listen for them unless stuff is given to me.
Yeah.
Or it's played for me. Because it's too much.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot on, especially Spotify and streaming services, Tidal, etc. So much that comes out on a day-to-day basis. But that's really dope to hear that you really, really like No Name and Saba and the Chicago crew. Cause
what? They are
so dope. Yeah, super dope. And there's like a whole new wave of rappers now that really would sound incredible over Principal Productions, in my opinion. Like Conway and West Side Gun and all these people, like. Man,
okay, I'm familiar with Conway.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're already kind of rapping on beats that sound like your stuff, you know what I mean? So, Yeah, we got to get that. I'm praying. You know, I'm fingers crossed that happens.
Hey, I just need an introduction, you know, and an introduction and some what's the word I'm looking for? Inspiration. You know what I'm saying? Because it's funny. Like nowadays, I still make music. I still like making music, but I don't. And I had to come to grips with this. I don't feel the same way I felt. I don't be like, ah. And this stuff I'll make like recently. I was like, oh my God, this is great. This is really good. And I'm thinking it's great. And I played some stuff, and I thought it was dope. And I played some stuff with Dan, the animator, and he was like, eh.
Oh, shit. Damn.
But I didn't, excuse me, I didn't go by that though. I was like, it's still dope.
Yeah,
but, you know, it won't be on a Handsome Boy record, but, you know.
Yeah. Shout out Handsome Boy. I got a question about Handsome Boy. Let's go. I'm gonna pause on that and just jump into the other things that the other, just to rewind, just keep on the topic we're on right now. Because, you know, current rap artists that I'd really love to hear you produce for, Tyler the Creator. He already sampled you off the Gravediggaz record, 2 Cups of Blood. He used it for Lumberjack. You know, obviously know that. He must have paid you for that, right?
Well, you know what's crazy is I was a Tyler fan since 2009, 2010. Since the first Odd Future, the Earl Sweatshirt first record, I was championing Tyler the Creator since. I was like, oh my God, Earl, especially Earl Sweatshirt. He was just so way beyond his time and his years and rhyming and their whole clique. I was like, everything they stood for. Until one day I was online, he was like, F Gravediggaz. I don't even know who they are, because everybody's like, yo, just sound like the Gravediggaz. I was like, forget Tyler the Creator. He's like, I was still a fan, but I was like, I felt kind of hurt. I was like, why is he trying to diss me? I love him. And it just happened as time went on, he sampled a Gravedigger record. And I remember RZA just called me and he's like, yo, 2 Cups of Blood, you know, you got the tracks and da-da-da. I'm like, why? He's like, Tyler Creator wants to use it. So he used the version that I did, because I remade it. You know what's weird is I was going to do that song at the same time with the Flatbush Zombies and RZA.
No shit.
I wanted to redo it, and so I had retracted. So I'd retracked it with the new 808 drums and everything behind it. It was tracked out. I don't know, for some reason it just never happened. And so when RZA asked for it, I already had it tracked out on Pro Tools, and I gave it to Tyler, and he used the version that I used, that I made for. The only thing he had in was the extra keys in it, but yeah, the beat underneath, all of that was redone. You know?
Wow, dude. Well, first of all, Flatbush Zombies, Prince Paul would be crazy, but that is what a crazy circumstance. That's a crazy story, dude.
And it's the first time told here.
Hey, we got an exclusive. Thank you so much, Paul.
Yeah, nobody, you know, yeah, that was, but it was just weird, the timing, because you gotta understand, we made that record with 94, 93, somewhere around there, and it just sat dormant, and then all of a sudden I come with this bright idea, yo, Flatbush Zombies, RZA, it was supposed to be Flatbush Zombies, Gravediggaz, but then it ended up Flatbush Zombies, RZA, and I was like, yo, let's redo 2 Cups of Blood. Oh, would all of them be crazy? And so I'm retracking it, and I presented it, sent it out, said, yo, let's redo this. And then next thing you know, Tyler Creator says, I want to use 2 Cups of Blood. I'm like, wow, I have it all set. You know, here you go. You know, and then Lumberjack comes out, and I'm like, wow, this is great. And then he gave me a shout out on some show, but reluctantly. I think it was like, it wasn't Ebro. It was one of those things. They're like, yeah, Prince Paul. He's like, yeah, Prince Paul, yeah. You know, I was Prince Paul. And he went to the next thing. I was like, oh man, I love him, but he don't love me. It's like a lot of the relationships I've been in my life, you know. And women, I love them, but they want to leave me. Like, what's up with that? Yeah,
oh my gosh. But yo, man, one of my favorite albums of yours is Gravediggaz 6 Feet Deep. I listened to that on repeat for ages, and I think it's just such a crazy record too, because like I don't even know how a record like that would even come out to this day, you know, like you formed that group with RZA and Fruquan, who's also in Stetsasonic. That is like, I mean, just that is crazy. I mean, that record is so good too. Like I listened to it and it still stands up to this day.
And don't forget Poetic, rest in peace, Poetic. Yeah,
Poetic.
Yeah, that was my brainchild. That was from being depressed. I made that record. All the music came out dark, and I put the group together with guys who I thought were kind of depressed and upset like I was, and we made this dark record. Like, I literally made that record in my basement with the lights off. All those beats were made in the dark. You know, I was like, I was like all sad and upset. They hate me. I'll show them. And I had all this dark music, and then when I played it for them, and because of their extenuating circumstances, they were feeling what I was feeling, and so it just worked out. It was a time and place that can't be recreated. And I produced that record. Like, I sat down, I really thought of every nook and cranny, every single turn, every twist. Like, I really tried to arrange and make that record a certain way. And it came out, and when it came out, that's when Biggie and Craig Mack and everybody came out, and that sound that I was doing was gone because everybody was on to the next thing. You know, I initially made that in 92, in 91, wow. 92. Now, if that record would have came out during that time, I think it would have been a huge hit. It's just that by the time that we was able to get the record deal and get all the other stuff, it came out years later, and music was shifting. Great record. I just think the timing was just a little off.
I heard also on Wikipedia that Eazy-E wanted to sign that record to Ruthless Records.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I haven't even read my Wikipedia because every time I read it, a lot of things are wrong on it. But okay. Yeah, that is true. Like, I sent the demo to Ruthless, to Eazy, and I flew out to LA to meet him. And I remember going in his office. He's like, "Yeah, man," and he had the tape in his hand. Like, this Gravediggaz thing, and I want to sign it, you know. And you know, I'm talking to him. And at that time, he had the videotape of, I don't know if you ever see that NWA videotape. It was a VHS. It was very limited. But I was like, "Yo, can I get that?" He's like, "Yeah, take it." You know, it has nothing to do with the story. But he's like, "Talk to Jerry. He'll make the Jerry Heller. He'll make the contract." Man, I remember I must have that contract somewhere. I remember getting the contract and looking at it and going, it was really, put like this, I was trying to get a deal for almost a year, and I wouldn't sign that contract. You know, you know what I'm saying? Usually, desperation will make you say, "I want to get this record out," especially with Eazy and Ruthless, because it would have fit and all the, you know. But I was like, it's not by any means necessary. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just wasn't a good deal. And I wanted to sign with Eazy. I wanted to, like, because I was such a big fan. And a lot of that NWA stuff, especially Niggas for Life album, was a big influence on me making that record. Which, that was an influence from the Bomb Squad, but, you know, we won't talk about the loops of inspiration. But, yeah, and it would have fit right, but it, you know, didn't happen.
I gotta say, though, about that record, and about a lot of your records, Gravediggaz, Handsome Boy Modeling School, Prince Among Thieves, they're so conceptually rich. Like, a lot of people, especially producers, will try and make hot songs, or like hot beats, or hot tracks. But you really make full conceptual albums that have like multiple layers throughout the whole thing. Like, Gravediggaz is a perfect example, and it's something that had a huge influence on me. How the name, Gravediggaz, the mood, Gravediggaz, the raps, Gravediggaz, the personalities, the subject matters. There's so many layers that were like visually so appealing. It all worked in your brain. Like, I think that's almost like kind of a trademark Prince Paul thing. Would you agree? Is that something that you kind of intentionally do?
I think I don't think it's intentional as much as I can focus on one big idea. Like, I would say a marketing guy, but yeah. I see a bigger picture, you know, and maybe part of it is listening to a lot of kids' records when I was little, a lot of, you know, stories and stuff like that. And a lot of it's Parliament Funkadelic, because those records were themed.
True.
You know, it's like Motor Booty Affair, they went down into the water, and then you go, you know, the Funkin' Telegy versus Procedural Syndrome, they went to space, and that was Mothership Connection too. So it's so many things that I grew up on, and those records, even though every record didn't stick by that theme, overall it had a vibe to it. And so I like to make records like that, though that's not popular anymore because I don't think people have the attention span to kind of go from one record to the next record and see how they tie in together. And that might be the reason why I haven't made a record in a while. You know, I mean, I can make singles, but to me, the fun is making those thematic and conceptual records. But if I don't want to put all that work, if I don't think there's an audience for it, like I can make it for myself, but you know, oh man, I can't see myself going. And then it's like, wow, yeah, 2 people downloaded it in the world over the last year. And I'm like, whatever. I can't even give it away. Nobody will pay attention to it. You know, they skip.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a struggle for a lot of people putting music out because of, I guess, the nature of streaming is more short form, you know, like a single. But, you know, a lot of the biggest artists are doing very conceptual albums. Kendrick Lamar. I mean, even Tyler's album, you know, where he sampled you is also a conceptual mixtape style album. And, you know, I mean, personally as a music lover and fan, and I know a lot of people in the chat would probably agree, is like, we really want that, you know, it's like, it's that extra layer of like complexity or just another kind of, you know, level of art and expression that is the things that I love so much about music. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm so thrilled to have you on the podcast is like, yeah, you're one of the standout producers in my books of somebody who's really kind of, you know, pushed music forward in that way, and especially rap music, you know, hip hop music. It's like just it's so impressive. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be gassing.
No. Hey, come on. Who would stop someone for saying something nice, you know, about them? You know, like, no, you're making me. No, I mean, maybe if I had an ego about the stuff I've done, and you know, if I had an ego about the stuff I've done, my Instagram and social media would be filled with every accolade I've made. There's things feel like I didn't even know you did that, because I'm like, you know, that's cool, it's fun, it's the next thing. But I think for me, I always looked at it, and I probably didn't realize it until very recent. But my whole career, I was like, anybody could do what I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never took it as a skill set or like, yo, I'm that great, or, you know, I'm like, the only difference to me is I just took a chance. But I never saw it as something like that. It's like, oh man, I'm so fly, and I'm thinking like this, and this happened. A lot of it to me is like everybody is just usually one lane, scared. I want people to like me, so I'm gonna make this type of music, or I'm gonna copy this person, do this. And I just dare to go left all the time. And I'm like, if people went left more, then, you know, they would probably do what I do. You know what I'm saying? So it's not a big deal.
Yeah. I think, though, the thing is, like, all the things you're talking about, the love that you have for music is really what translates to at least the fans like myself and I guess the people in this chat. You know, it's like, we really love music. You know, we really want that extra stuff, you know, so...
It's the bottom line. That, I mean, not to cut you off, but to me, that's always the bottom line. It's loving music. This is how I think about it, and it's going to sound cheesy, but it's out of all honesty. I want to give music back what it gave to me, and I could probably never do that. So I respect it and give it justice. I don't try to extract from it. I remember there was one artist, and I'm not going to say his name. I was on tour. I was over in Europe, and somebody said, "Yeah, we just did an interview with such and such," and he was like, "I don't care about hip hop. I just get money. I get paid, and I just get whatever." And to me, that's just disrespecting, not just hip hop, but it's just disrespecting music. I mean, man, this music got my mom a house. It took care of, raised all my kids. I met so many friends, and you know, it's done so much for me that why would I disrespect it and not take the time to give it anything quality back? Not everything's going to be great. You know, I've made some duds. You know, I'll be first to admit that. Listen back, but that wasn't my intention when I made it. You know what I'm saying? You know, so. There's a respect, and I think if people respected the music more, they would put more into it instead of trying to extract from it, you know, and trying to like, I got to get paid, I got to get this, I want, you know, I need pictures for the gram, I want, you know, to do my TikTok and, you know, mouth a few albums, you know, somebody's words, and, you know, instead of look at me, if they would just really go, yo, this thing is precious, I have to take care of it. It's like a baby, you know, you're not just gonna throw it to the side, you got to nurture it, take care of it, raise it. And yes, it sounds cheesy, but that's how I feel. It's like it's the respect. You got to respect the music, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, the relationships you have had with music, it's great to see that, like you said earlier, your friends, still friends with the people that you started out your career with, and it's cool to even, like, we're talking about Gravediggaz, you work with Fuquan on that project, like, so many of your relationships, you've really kept them going. It seems like you have a lot of respect for the people that you work with as well. And that's tough in the music industry, right? Like, it's hard sometimes to maintain relationships with ego, money, expectations and things like that, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say all those people like me, but I would say that I like them. No, I'm cool with everybody. If you don't like me, usually there's something wrong with you, and I sincerely feel that way. Like there's no reason not to really hate on me. And usually when people don't like me, it's because they can't make me do something I don't want to do. Oh, Paul, he's difficult. I can't jerk him. I cannot pay him to do this gig. Oh, he's difficult to work with. I don't like him. People usually don't like you, especially in this business, when they can't take advantage of it. Then you become difficult. Oh, he's difficult. I would like to get a aisle seat. Oh, he's asking for an aisle seat for the plane. Oh, he's asking for too much. Can I at least get per diem for lunch? Oh, he wants per diem. Just the basic things to show that you respect me, and then he's difficult. Those people don't like me. Hey, excuse me, can we look at my royalty statement and figure out why I owe all this money when I know I didn't charge him this money? Oh, no, he's getting a lawyer. Oh, he's difficult. It's true. How many people probably don't like you, and usually the reason why is because they can't take advantage of you.
Oh yeah, no, I think everyone in the chat agrees as well. Everyone's like, oh, absolutely, holy shit, so factual. It's like, yeah, it's all, everyone knows, man. This is the real deal.
So that's what I'm saying. If you don't like me, there's something wrong with you. It's because, like I said, and it's almost like relationships like that too. Male-female relationships. A lot of probably, my situations is like, you won't go to the cotillion with me? I hate Paul. He's horrible. He's da-da-da. You won't.
But I love that, ultimately it comes down to, if you have self-respect, you have standards that, you expect a certain level of decency, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's 101. I mean, I've done a lot of things that I didn't want to do, and then you sit there and you're just freaking miserable, and now I'm stuck at this thing I said yes to, and I don't. Now I'm old. It's easy for me to go, nah, I'm good. People just get mad at me, like, what, you won't do it? You won't, march 40 blocks for Save Hip Hop. And I'm like, I can't do that, man. You don't love hip hop? Paul's difficult. He's a hip hop hater. It's okay to say no.
Absolutely. That's actually a really good point. It's great to hear you say that. It's okay to say no. It's okay to turn down the things that you don't want to do if they don't, do it for you for whatever reason.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I've turned down lots of opportunities and lots of money. I mean, just based upon it wasn't right for me. You know what I'm saying? And God bless my mom, who's passed on, but she always said there's no dollar amount for peace of mind. And there's a lot of things I had to really sit down, like, how much they're paying me? But then I knew it would be stressful. I wouldn't have fun. I'd be, it takes years off your life. I'll still eat, the lights still stay on, just I won't have those staggered rims on the car that I want to buy.
The quote was,
I'm thinking about rims, but anyway, that's another story.
But the quote is, there's no price for peace of mind. That's what your mom said?
Yeah, there's no price for peace of mind. And I would say, I'm not gonna, I was about to say something that I probably would regret, but there's a lot of projects that I didn't do based on that. And a lot of them is, to maintain friendships and to maintain certain things at a given time. But, it's, yeah. And I survived. It's okay. It's okay. And I always kind of made the records I want to make based on that.
Yeah, man. I mean, we really appreciate your artistic integrity, man. That's one of the things that really shines through in your music as well.
Thanks. Sounded cheesy on here. The more I'm talking, I sound all like, yeah, but you don't have to cross out the green and in between, and make sure you eat your vegetables. And And I don't want to come off like that because that's not me, you know.
No,
but
man.
it's just I have certain standards and guidelines I live by, whether you like me or hate me. You know what I'm saying? And it's I'm you know. I don't
No,
know.
we love it. This is really valuable. I really appreciate, the honesty. I mean, honestly, like, this is the great thing about the conversation that we have here. The sharing is yeah, you're a very real person. I love that. We are getting short on time, so I want to try and rip through a couple things.
Okay.
Because I understand you're probably a pretty busy guy. But I've always thought about another producer that I've always thought has taken a lot, or seems to be a lot of similarities with you, is Madlib. And the way, the kind of way that you choose samples and make skits and have conceptual albums. And there's also a lot of fun and humor in your productions. What do you think of Madlib? Are you a fan?
Oh, I always thought Madlib was dope. I met him years ago. Actually, I was over in Europe. I forgot where it was at. It was the first time I met him. He was with Wolf. He was with Peanut Butter Wolf and Jay Dilla. And actually, that's when I actually met both of them.
Wow.
And yeah, I was like, wow, I've always been a fan of his work. We chatted a few times. I tried it. I was like, yo, at one point I was like, yo, let's do a record together. And he's like, yeah, that's a great idea. And then he just never got back to me. So I was like, I'm feeling like a sucker. I'm texting him, yo, nothing. I'm like, all right, he's a weirdo like me, and I get it, But I put that to bed. I was like, yo, that'd be kind of fun. But yeah, he's dope. I mean, there's so many dope guys that are in that genre, but he's definitely the records he uses, like his selection is just out of this world. And there's some things that he's chopped up that I'm like, how did he do that? Anytime I listen to a producer and I can't figure out how it's done, and it's really good, they get my respect. Because usually I can listen to a record, this, that. I can tell you the arrangement. Okay, bit, and then all of a sudden the horn comes like, yeah, I told you, But when it's something, I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? Oh my God, that's cool. I would have never thought of that, Then that to me is brilliant, and he does that. He does a lot of those, like, whoa, sneaks up on you.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, speaking of humor, you've obviously worked with Chris Rock and one of my personal favorites, Pootie Tang. I saw that you uploaded the song you did with Pootie Tang, with also featuring Missy Elliott.
Yeah, me and Newkirk, my good friend who I've known since I was 14, we worked on that. Yeah, working. See, it's things like that. Like, if I take my time and really go my career, I could flood my social media with just random, hip hop, facts. Yeah, I work with Missy Elliott. Like, I've never put that on my bio. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's never, and that's a great feat. And that's nothing against Missy, but it's just like, it's just one of those things you kind of do. And it's funny, like, working with her, from what I can remember, I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to talk to her. And I have this music and it's da-da-da. And she's like, yeah. All right, I got it. It's like, I need no direction from you. I got this. And
she's a good producer. She's a great producer too, right?
I couldn't argue with her. I just sat down and shut up. Even though you figure me being her senior and having years with her, I would get like a little bit of like, oh, it's Paul. It was like, yeah, whatever. You sit in the other room. I'll tell you when it's done. And I couldn't be mad because it was dope. I was like, yo, I might have messed it up. I was feeling insecure. I was like, man, if I had my hand in it a little more. I mean, when I'm saying that, I mean like vocal arrangements and vocals and stuff, not the production of music itself.
Yeah, actually, hey, we got another one about humor. Someone from Toronto has just added, talking about your album, The Dicks.
The Dicks!
Yeah, I love the Dicks album. It's a funny one. I don't know exactly what I want to ask you about it, other than I just really like that record.
Yeah, that we put that on Mr. Len's label, Dummy Smacks. Len was like, yeah, man, do whatever record. And I was like, all right, yeah, this will be fun. Get my friends together. We'll just do something silly. And I wanted to make an album. I wanted to make the group called The Dicks because, and you almost said it, but you covered yourself. Because you said, I love The Dicks album. And when people say I love The Dicks, and I did that specifically for that so I could just chuckle every time.
Oh, Paul, that's great.
But you covered yourself. You said album. So,
it's all good. But you also worked with SpongeBob SquarePants, and I actually have a SpongeBob emote. I'm a big fan, which is also fire. Would you want to work with,
SpongeBob.
Yeah. Would you want to work with SpongeBob again?
Yeah, that was a great opportunity. That's when SpongeBob. I don't know how many people out there watch SpongeBob, but that's when SpongeBob. The writing was incredible. It was very risque. It was just all over the place. Nowadays, like I haven't watched it much, but my daughter told me like they just edited out a lot of things and made it a little more friendly.
Yeah.
There's no showing SpongeBob's butt anymore and stuff. They cut all that out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not that I want to see his butt, but it's part of the jokes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean it's Rick and Morty. It's all that good things.
Exactly.
SpongeBob. There's actually on YouTube. I'll have to put this in the Discord or something. But there's actually a SpongeBob YouTube where it's SpongeBob weed pants, and it's all about SpongeBob going to buy weed and getting stoned with his friends.
Yeah, I got to see that. That's actually pretty funny.
Yeah, I'll send you the link, man. It's really good. Anyways, how are we doing for time? How are you doing for time, Paul?
Yeah, I got like another 10 minutes, and then I got to school you on out, unfortunately.
Okay, well, just real quick, talk quickly about your project with Dan, the Automator, Handsome Boy Modeling School. It's one of my favorite records. In fact, you signed that record for me, and you said, "To cut corners, stay out of jail, Prince Paul."
That is right, because I guess you can be handsome in jail, depending.
You probably don't want to be.
Yeah, those are good advice to live by. Yeah, Dan the Automator. Yeah, years back when he did just quickly when he did Dr. Octagon, which is a phenomenal album. I did Psychoanalysis, and we got on the phone, and we got on the phone because we had a mutual friend. The guy who put out Psychoanalysis. His name is Skiz, and he was interviewing Dan the Automator. He's like, I got Dan the Automator on the phone. He says he likes your work and da-da-da. I was like, oh, I love Dr. Octagon. So we got on the phone, and then I was like, yeah, man, you used Chris Elliott, and then he was like, yeah, and then that was our bonding moment. That's when we geeked out, get a life, and da-da-da, and we're talking about the episodes, and it was beyond hip-hop. And then the Handsome Boy Modeling School episode came up, and then jokingly, we was like, yeah, we should make a band called Handsome Boy Modeling School, ha 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 ha. And one day he calls me up, he's at Tommy Boy, he's like, yo, Paul, they want to sign Handsome Boy Modeling School. I'm like, what? Because it was a joke. And somehow, because, Dan was the hot thing at the time, I guess they wanted to jump on the Dan train, and I was all aboard. I was like, what? You stole that? We don't even have a record. It's just a stupid idea that we just had a conversation. And so we had to make it up.
Wow.
And so we took the kind of just applied the concept of Handsome Boy Modeling School. And if you notice on the first album, I have a mustache on. And the only reason why I put the mustache, I was like, at some point I was like, oh my God, this is really silly. I got to reinvent myself. I got to hide myself as much as I can. So I put the mustache on and all the stuff and the glasses, and it became a look after that. Then Dan put on the mustache a little later, and who would have thought? It was very strange, and it was fun. It's a fun record. Like that record, especially the first one, was just so carefree. It was just like, yeah, that's cool. That's handsome. Had two MPCs head to head, banging away at Dan's house. What do you think of this? Yeah, give me the disc. Hand him the disc, put it in. Yo, what do you think of this? That's handsome. And then we had all these songs, and then we kind of just said, okay, these are the ones we're going to use. These are the artists. And it was just a very weird process. Like, Handsome Boy Records, I say I don't take a lot of things seriously. I definitely did take those records seriously. And it was just a lot of fun just to be just kind of open.
Yeah.
Just go, yeah, it's cool.
It's just such a unique concept. I mean, there's not many opportunities or many albums I can think of where producers work together like that, I mean, obviously you did that with... You produced all the Gravediggaz beats, so primarily, right? That wasn't like RZA doing as much production.
Yeah, RZA did maybe like two things on there, and I think Poetic did a track with this guy named Mr. Syme, and Fuquan did a track. But yeah, I did all the heavy lifting on that.
So when you got with Dan, it's like you kind of have to feel each other out or figure out, like, it sounds like you guys just had a great workflow right out of the gate.
Yeah, I mean, in those days it was fun because we just find something. Oh, that's dope. Oh no, that's handsome. That's what we say. Oh, that's handsome. Yeah, okay. And we just we out of all the music we have, it's funny. I still got a lot of the old discs, a lot of the old music that just didn't make it to the handsome batch. But we would we both mutually agree that's handsome. Okay, let's work on that. Okay, who do we hear on this? Who can we get? And I think in some regards, it's like who will actually work with us. Dan's strong point is he's that guy who knows all the alternative rock bands and all the people. Like I don't know any of them. He'll go, yeah, man. Carpet Makers is in town, and I know the guy Danny Carpet, and he's the lead singer, and I'll go, who? And then I'll look up, and this guy, they sold 2 million records. Like it's always some weird, and he knows he's dialed in, and he exposed me to so much music that I've never heard before, and artists, and I've learned a lot from Dan. I'd have to say I've definitely learned a lot. I think us not working together in a lot of years, I think we hear differently nowadays, and that's and that's understandable. But he's a very smart guy. Dan is brilliant guy.
We got to get down on here. I love that record for that exact reason. You got Moloko, J Live on a track. You got Encore, and you got Dell, and you got all these different artists, Chibo Mato, and like Mike D. It's like GJ Shadow, Mike Patton. You got like a lot of really interesting combinations of artists that and they work. It all makes sense.
Yeah, it's crazy. And with that being said, when you listen to the album, you could probably tell who got who. You know what I'm saying? It's like who made the calls to who. You know what I'm saying? And, like I said, Dan is brilliant. He's a very smart guy, very talented. There's another Handsome Boy project in the midst of being worked on. We just gotta get the music all coordinated, but we're close. We're close.
Awesome. And I know you're really short on time, so I'm gonna just a couple more questions. The one question we ask everybody who comes on the show is, what does the power of music mean to you? And that's what the show's about. So I'd love to hear what the power of music means to you, Prince Paul.
Wow. What does the power of... I think the power of music means to me is just life. It's life altering, life changing, life motivating. I mean, if you think about it, you can do a drive-by to a song. You can make love to a song. To music. You could do your homework to a song. You can work at your job to a song. You know what I'm saying? It's the soundtrack to your life. You know what I'm saying? And you can think back and hear this one thing, and you could just go off and like, oh, wow. You could be motivated to do things. You go to the gym, you got your power workout, like, and you're like, Like, I got my gym clothing on because I came back from the gym. My what's in my headphones sliders usually MF Doom. It's funny you wouldn't think workout to MF Doom. What's his name? Oh, come on. Mike Tyson made the Mike Tyson album.
Shoot, I don't actually know that.
The album Mike Tyson. He passed away. He was down with Boot Camp Click. Come on. Sean Price. I'm all over the place. And that's my motivation. I'm like, So, to me, that's the power of music, man. It's the soundtrack to life.
Wow. That's a really great answer, man. Sorry, thank you.
I was searching for that one. That was a hard question, man. I was like, I don't want to be that dude that came on here and when you do the edits of, the power of music, and then everybody goes back to back, and Paul goes, it's just, it's what I do, and everybody has all these, crazy answers.
That was a great one. That was a great answer, especially the first bit where you're like, you could do a drive-by to it.
Man. Soundtrack to life.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I got one question from the audience. The Diva Speaks asked, when is Prince Paul going to release a book? And I'm curious to know, is that something on the cards?
And peace to the Diva Speaks. I remember many years ago, and, of course, that is not just a straight yes or no answer. I was asked to do a book, and I said that I never thought my life was interesting enough for me to do a book. That was probably about 20 years ago. I think now my life is interesting enough to do a book, but I told my kids I'm going to sit down and I'm going to outline all the stuff I want, and I'm going to I'm going to record it, and then, I hope to live a very long life. When I'm gone, they could put it out and publish it, because there's a lot of things that I can't say while I'm living because I will be canceled. You can't be brutally honest. Like, I wouldn't lie to anybody. I wouldn't blow anybody up, but there's so many great stories, and a great book would have to hurt some feelings. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, it is what it is. And I can't do that and expect to walk around in 2022 and feel safe. So I would have to do that, and move on, because I can make my honest opinions of things. And yeah, man, that record was whack. Yeah, man, that person stole $100 from me. You
gotta call people.
He did drugs in the bathroom at my house. I could say all of that stuff.
Have you watched? There's a documentary on Netflix, Andy Warhol Diaries, I think it is, and they got an AI voice of Andy Warhol to narrate it, and it's all these stories from his diary, and it's kind of like that actually. And I was like, just to put a bug in your ear, if you were ever thinking about doing that, you should get an AI Prince Paul to tell a story and make it into a doc or a book like that.
That would be pretty interesting. It's funny. I've seen that on Netflix and just skipped by it. I was like, I like Andy Warhol, but an hour and a half of Andy Warhol, 2 hours, I don't know. And I kept skipping.
It's a whole season, dude. It's it's a lot. But I had COVID at the time, so I breezed through it. I was not going anywhere. So definitely check it out. It's worthwhile. Just on the concept of it, this AI voice. His story is very interesting. It's from this lady who had all his diaries and transcribed them into a book. Highly recommend it.
All right, I'm going to watch it, and then if I feel like I've wasted my life, we got to figure out a monetary or some type of way I could get paid back. I feel like I've got it.
Okay, yeah, I'll do some kind of deal with you. We'll discuss this offline.
It's like music. That's why there's a lot of music I don't listen to, because there's so much to filter through. So I usually go by people who I trust that suggest and send me things, because man, if I listened to everything that was given to me, I would never get that time back. It's a lot of great music, but there's a lot of bad music, and there's a lot of it's almost like driving without navigation or a map. There's a lot of wrong streets I have to hit before I get to the right streets. And to me, that's what music is. I'm like, I wasted all this time by going south. I could have just went north. I'll never get that time back. I'm late. And that's how music is to be. I just put me all on the right path, on the right things, and life will be easy breezy and nice. But there's no GPS to music.
That's so true,
because everybody has a hit, and everybody makes great music.
That's so true, dude. Yeah, I love that. But look, Paul, thank you again so much for your time. Is there anything you wanna let people know about before we wrap this up, or is there anyone you want to shout out or anything?
I want to shout out everybody. It's funny, shout out. So I feel like I'm one of them old big school video shows. I want to shout out all my people in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan. Everybody who came through today. I mean, all of you out there. I just realized there's a screen right here that has all the stuff that people typed in. I just saw it. I would have read it the whole time. I realize I've been doing this a lot. I got that from what's his name? Denzel Washington.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it was in Training Day. He was like,
oh yeah, Training Day. Man, I love that movie. That's a good movie.
Yeah, yeah, everybody came through, and I appreciate everyone to sticking around and listening, and I don't know. I always feel like my life is boring and the things I say are boring, so it's always nice when people comment or want to be heard.
Oh man, your life is far from boring, and this has been one of the best interviews we've had. I think everyone really enjoyed it, and yeah, man. Someone said, I think really early on, someone said this was like the Golden State Warriors playing in the third quarter. There's so many gems being dropped. So,
well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the invite, and I'm sorry it took so long. I'm not that difficult. Usually, I'm very easy. Just we couldn't get our time synchronized. You know what took time was me going and working with De La Soul, because that was very last minute and unexpected, and a blessing at the same time. So I had to go where the music takes me.
I can't wait to hear what came of that too. So fingers
Oh, it
crossed.
should be great. Yeah. So you said real quick. Yeah. Just look for something from De La Soul. Look forward to Handsome Boy Modeling School. Me and Newkirk, we're scoring a documentary for HBO that should come out. Should have been out, but the pandemic slowed everything down. So sometime next year. I don't know. I want to make a record, but I don't know. I'm trying to find the motivation. There's different artists I've been talking to. Fat Boy Sharif, I've been talking to maybe about recording some things. Talked recently to Count Bass D. I just had a conversation with Jay Live.
Yes.
So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I want to be excited about music, and I want to just but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I think Sour Milk, who's one of the DJs in LA, I don't know if you know DJ Sour Milk, but he's really wanted to talk about Prince Amongst Thieves. We'll have to save that for the next time we get you on here, Paul, because I'd love to do that part too. Because I know a lot of people, that's one of their favorite records of yours, and one of mine too. So.
Oh wow! Well, that's yeah. We could definitely talk about that. I'm around. I'll be a little easier to get to this next time.
Okay, awesome, man. Again, thank you again so much for being on here. And you have a podcast too, right?
Yeah, I had. There was one I did with Open Mike Eagle called I forgot what it was called.
Is it 33
It's funny. I named the podcast and I don't remember what it was. What had happened was.
What had happened was. That's right.
Yeah.
All right, definitely check that out. Gotta check that.
Yeah, did that, and I had another podcast on Spotify called see what happens when you get old. 33 and a third, and I hosted a bunch of those, and those are great. And hopefully one day I'll be able to do another podcast. Those podcasts are fun.
Yeah, we really loved having you on here today, Paul. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks again, and everybody be safe out there. And I'm around.
All right, everybody, give it up for Paul. And we've got to give a quick air horn as well for this one.
Hey, everybody, check out my cup real quick. I got the doo-doo cup, just so everybody knows, it's how I roll.
There we go.
In case everybody wants to know what I was sipping.
All right. Thanks again, Paul. Have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Yep, I'll be around. Take care. Thank you again.
All right.
Have a good one. Peace.
Yo, thank you everybody so much. That was epic, to say the least.